Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be probably explaining, the simplest and easiest way to break the ice when you're given any platform. And I'm gonna be using the R.I.P model, which is what I used in the presentation I recently gave. Now, most people that I've had certain sessions with, I've had discussions with, and people have coached over time. One thing they ask me oftentimes is, how do I break the ice? It could even have to do with clients, potential investors. It ranges from every area, actually, every discipline. How do you break the ice? It even has to do also with, men. If you see someone that you actually want to be your mentor, how do I approach that person? What kind of skills do I need to have? What do I say within the first 5 minutes or something? So I decided to come up with this model. And no, it doesn't mean rest in peace, so you could all just chill. Now, this presentation I had, what was interesting about it is that first I had to actually understand who I was talking to. That's the first thing you want to know. You need to do your background search. Who is this person you're speaking with? Now, in my case, it had to do with the particular project I was working on, and I had to kind of interpret it to, like third year students, undergrads, and what I had to know is that you can, the way I would speak to a master's students, the way I'll speak to professors, is definitely not the way I'll speak to this category of people. The undergrads, they're probably going to be on the phone or something. They just want to hear there's something interesting, what's in it for them, and then they want to leave. That's actually how most of them are. So one thing I had to do is that I needed to understand them. So the technical bit of my presentation, I skipped that part. What I did instead was to replace it with something they could relate to. Now, so the R in the R.I.P model, the first thing, the R, is that ensure you are relatable. Whatever you're talking about, you have to relate to them. So you have to meet them at their level. That is number one thing, and that is extremely important. Now, it's extremely unwise if, for instance, I'm a doctor, right? And I'm talking to someone that is extreme, like probably a footballer or something. I can't just be speaking medical terms. There's no way you expect him to really understand the technicality involved in whatever I'm talking about. You need to come to the level of the footballer. Like, okay, for instance, you could use the ball. This ball is like this. You can imagine it as your heart. Or I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to say, do you understand? Like, you need to relate. You need to make it relatable, whatever you're talking about. So it could be an idea, it could be a thought. You have to relate it. You have to relate it to them at their level. So what I did for this my audience at that point in time was that I had to make it relatable. So I had to know my audience. It's extremely important. Now, if you're meeting clients, if you're meeting potential investors in your ideas or whatever it is about, you need to do your background search. Is extremely important, and you can never be over prepared for anything. Actually, you can never be over prepared, and so you want to avoid being under prepared. You have to do your due diligence, and that's what I tell people. Know who you're talking to. What do they like? What do they hate? What interests them? Now connect to them on that level. Now, what I would say for me in my case basically is that, I looked at the students, and before then I knew that, okay, fine. One thing I know they would love, both guys and girls, is that, smartphone is the invite, and I was talking about a digital fitness app. So the first thing I had to do is that I talked about a game. I wanted to explain a bit of how the app worked, but instead what I did was to say, oh, how many people have played Jetpack Joyride? And I saw like hands in the air. That's now already I had made it relatable, and I had engaged them already, which makes absolute sense. So that is one thing you want to do. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, if you haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, when it comes to financial intelligence, that's the number one book, one of the best selling. He's one of the best-selling authors out there when it comes to business and ideas and investments and all that. And that book I read it like when I was extremely little, and it really helped my mentality generally. So one thing you want to do, one thing Robert Kiyosaki did, recently, is that he launched this comic book basically to teach children how to understand the topic finance. By doing that, he's getting the other shares, not just getting adults and youths, he's also getting children into the idea. And what he did to make it relatable to them, for instance, is that he made a comic book. Now, who doesn't love to see animated animation actually, to make it more interesting? Now, even though I'm definitely not a child, but then I found the book extremely interesting. I read the book. I downloaded it. It was like an ebook, and I read it, and it was fascinating actually. And I could relate absolutely. I could connect to it. Now, I also saw the potential of it becoming one of the probably that would probably be one of the books that kids will want to really connect with and read when it comes to finance and investments. Financial intelligence as well, which was absolutely amazing. Now, for instance, I'm a huge fan of Shark Tank. For those who have not seen the TV show, now when it comes to Mark Cuban, for instance, he's a fan of basketball. Here, he owns like the greatest share for Dallas, and when people want to when inventors want to pitch their ideas to potential investors, one thing they do, if it's Mark Cuban, they want to talk about what is common. They need to get to their level to relate it. Now, Mark Cuban has to deal with stadiums, has to do with basketball. He's like the top 5% when it comes to basketball, like people that you really want to potential investors, and so. Now, for instance, one of my mentors, Tai Lopez, right? That is one thing he has in common with Mark Cuban. So it was easy for him, when he met, Mark, for instance, he's not going to be talking, any other thing. The first thing he wants to talk about is basketball. Why? That is like an easy way to break the ice, because Mark can relate to that. To that, Tai also loves basketball, so it was very, very easy. Now, when Tai also met Arnold Schwarzenegger, which we all know is like, when it comes to like Terminator and movies and all that, Arnold is the guy, and he has this huge, extremely fit physique. And so Tai is also, because Tai stands for four core areas which he believes talks about balance, the good life. Now, it's called health, wealth, love, and happiness. Now, in terms of health and fitness, Tai looks up to Arnold in that area. So when Tai actually met with Arnold, he started talking about biceps, triceps, how many times he exercises every day. Now, that was like a soft landing. So before you meet your audience, basically, you want to know, you want to understand, before you actually speak to your audience, before you get to have that platform, you need to know what would interest them, what do they love to do. Now, when Matt Pushes, my other mentor, wanted to meet Tai, he knows Tai is a big fan of knowledge about books, about ideas. So what he did was that he got him a book, because Tai has he has a crazy amount of bookshelves, bookstores, and all that. Now, what Tai actually has is that he has a whole lot of this, and so it's kind of very difficult for one to like get a book for Tai in that regards, right? So what Matt did was that he got him a book that it was going to be extremely difficult for Tai to have, because the book was not like it's not really like out there. You can just get it online. It's not really in Amazon like that. And that's what he sends he said, I have a gift for you, and you won't find this anywhere. And that got Tai curious, and that was like the soft landing. Now, that is number one skill that successful people use to break the ice, and that is what you want to have. Now, when you meet someone that loves politics, you don't want to be talking about any other thing else. You just ask them, what's their opinion? Are they for the Republicans? Are they for the Democrats? You really need to be that versatile. Now, it's important, one thing that we need to have when it comes to business, when it comes to ideas, you need to know that it's very important for you to be able to adapt. it is extremely crucial. And one key example I use oftentimes is that when it comes to you can imagine some maybe like phone companies like probably 20 years ago or 10 years ago or something. Now social media is like a big thing. So if that company that was probably among the 10% right there in the industry fails to adapt to using social media to get ahead of the game, what will happen is that they're going to be like, like in no time, and they don't want that to learn to adapt. Now, for anyone out there that thinks, adapting means being less than me, you're already losing, a huge chunk of the industry. Now, it's important for people to know when to adapt, how to adapt, study the competition, study what successful people do that gets them ahead of the game, and then you want to be able to play in a very strategic way in that regard. The one thing is that you want to be able to relate, know your customers, know your clients, because one thing about the Mentoring Academy as well is about becoming, it's like a two-way thing, right? Activating your hidden treasures and also enabling you to master the business of your talents. Now, in order for you to do that, you really need to be able to adapt. You need to be relatable when you're speaking to people. That is the number one thing, you want to know. What do those people love? If it's someone that loves pattern, you're going to ask them the first time you meet them, oh, how's your Friday night? Oh, sorry, how was your Friday night? What did you do? If you're meeting them on a Monday morning, you want to actually, that is, now, for that kind of person that loves social life and all that, that will get them talking and, talking more. Before you know what is happening, the ice has been broken, and then you could ask them other things. But you need to start on their level before you talk about whatever you want to talk about. You need to know what's happening in about what interests them and how to actually intercept actually that market and that level of interest. Now, for instance, when I deal with clients, basically, there's some people that will just start talking generally, but there's some people that you need to meet them on the level. It could be me starting with my story, it could be me not asking them anything, but rather just talking about myself, and then they feel kind of comfortable with sharing their own story. So remember, the R in the R.I.P model is that you want to be relatable, right? Now the second one is about being interesting. It's extremely important for you to know, to ensure that you do not lose your audience. And then when you notice that it's probably shifting a bit, what you want to do is retrace your steps. That's number one thing you want to do. You want to actually retrace your steps and ensure you chip in something. It could be a joke, it could be a question, it could be something else, but make sure you keep it in, as in make sure you keep the conversation interesting, like keep it extremely interesting. If you realize you made a mistake, even when you realize, for instance, look, let me give an instance. Now, when I was talking to the third year students, this undergrads, and one thing I noticed, because what I was talking about was extremely technical, I threw in the game stuff, and they were all like, yeah, hands up in the air, they're huge fans. But I skipped a whole lot of the technical bits. And I told them, basically, sometimes you have to be real with them, and they will connect with that on that level. I was like, yeah, I really don't want to bore you guys, so I'm not going to go. I'm going to skip this slide and go to the next. And then you could throw in a joke, you could change it. Just make sure you keep it interesting, because you don't want to lose people, once you're doing that. Now, one important fact for you here is that you have to learn to become a chameleon. It doesn't mean being less of you. It just means being adaptable. You should be able to adapt to the situation, know your audience, like I said before, and then stay interesting. Now, for instance, there are some movie stars, for instance, like they might not be the movie, because I love intelligent movies and all that. They might not be the main star of the movie, but in my opinion, without those people, I actually feel that the entire movie will be extremely boring. One of them, which I say, I could mention. And now the funniest thing that they're not like the star of the movie. They're not the people you even see during the trailers and everything of the movies. But for me, without those beats of people, because they have this interesting beats that gets me excited personally. I don't know how many people actually like The Good Wife. Now, if you mention their movies, if you mention The Good Wife, for instance, I'm going to talk about Eli as an Eli Gold. Now, is he the star? Absolutely not. He's not even a lady, so it's not. When it's about The Good Wife, he's not a lady or something, So but then without Eli, I'm like, why will I be watching that movie? It's going to be boring because he keeps it interesting. Now, one thing I do personally is that I'm a learner of life. Like, I learn from every single thing. I could learn from a tree, I could learn from anything, I could learn from nature, I could learn from just understanding. So I love learning. So one thing I notice about people that really matter, that actually gets all the people's attention, is that they extremely want to be interesting. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit here to talk about Joel Osteen. People that do not know him, he's one of the one of the amazing preachers actually. And what fascinates me about Joel Osteen is that he always starts his sermon with a joke. Like, there's a time I listened to something and he talked about something that was extremely funny. He was like, this couple got into an argument. They were really not talking, and what happened is that so the husband actually wrote, "Can you just wake me up the next morning to catch my train? I have a flight or something. No, to catch my flight. I have to be there at the airport by maybe 5 a.m. or something and all that." And they weren't talking. And then he responded, or in the morning, the wife responded, because they weren't talking. She responded by writing a note, "Can you wake up? It's time." And that was so funny because apparently he woke up. The guy actually woke up late. And then it was like, "Why you didn't wake me up?" Blah blah blah. She was like, "Yeah, I wrote back in the notes. Why didn't you wake up? I told you to wake up." But then he keeps it. You get the whole congregation like really laughing even before the sermon starts. So successful people in whatever field you're in, they really know how to connect. And try not to keep their audience bored at any point in time. And once they notice that it's kind of getting boring, because it's fine, sometimes it could happen, things happen, but you need to know how to handle it. And what they do is that they adapt, they changes, they train some spice, train some jokes, just make sure that it's extremely interesting. Now, the other bit I would like to talk about is the P in the R.I.P model. The P, its focuses on participation. Now, the best way to keep people after breaking the ice, which is by making it relatable, making it interesting, you want to top it up with participation. That's like the icing on the cake. You have to know how to get your audience to participate. Now, I notice most people, for instance, when you see like a TEDx show, when you see those people, when they walk in, the first thing they want to do, some of them, it could be they're gonna be so quiet, and some people will listen for the silence. Now, on the other hand, some people will be like, "Oh, there's a guy I noticed one time, he brought an orange, and it was like, how many people have used this orange? Is it to make like an orange juice or something?" He asked a kind of funny question, and got people laughing within the first 5 seconds. Now, that is one thing you want to do. You want to get people encourage participation, to make people participate. Now, one thing you can do in that regard is that you want to ask relevant questions. Now, what I did, for instance, after talking about the Jetpack Joyride, which is like a game, they have on Android, they have on I think they have on iPhones as well. But one thing I want to say is that about asking relevant questions for this, when I had a presentation, one thing I did is that I asked now, imagine you're measuring your fitness every day. It could be number of times you walk in a day, number of kilometers you walk in a day, number of times you run, or number of hours or minutes you run per day. Who would like to share their fitness data on social media? And I saw a couple of hands up. Who would like to share their fitness data with no one? Some other people. So now that at that point in time, it was relatable, it was interesting, and I made them participate. Now, one of my one of my team members as well, team mates as well, he also made a presentation, and it was fantastic. He had it going, but at a bit of being interesting, there was some couple of times he lost me. Like I was lost basically, because like I said, our project is actually quite complicated. But then he did something at a point in time, because he was talking about a really technical stuff, and I really didn't understand how he got from there. Okay, I think I was on my phone at that point in time, and then at a point in time I just saw my head go up because he mentioned Beyonce, and I was like, what? Like, that kind of shock. Like, how does the data, the analysis of your data have to do with Beyonce? But right till now I really don't know what part he was talking about. But at that point in time my head went up, because that was sort of interesting, and he kind of encouraged us. I mean, I know everybody's head, they were like, what, how did Beyonce? But he was trying to explain something at that point in time, and it was funny, because he definitely got my eyes, and as in my attention rather, at that point in time. And that is what you want to do, irrespective of the idea. It could be a normal conversation with your friend. Now, know what gets their attention, and then use it to explain whatever it is. If know your audience, know whatever it is, right? Now, another thing is that you want to make people contribute, which I've said before. And the one thing that Mike Murdoch actually says, who I would call the wisdom guy, is that he always carries a question book wherever he goes. So he asks extreme questions. Like, now the best way you can differentiate an intelligent person from the others is the kind of quality of questions they ask. So what you want to do is that you want to be that person in the room that is like, yeah, how does this, okay, if you do this, how does this work? How does, what is this, what's your projection over a period of time about how you will intercept that market? If you're talking to like someone that's trying to pitch an idea, you want to ask questions that would make people think, and before they even respond, because it's interest. That's how you know people that have done their due diligence, which is what I call it. They have done their research, they have done their homework and all that. Yeah. It's extremely important. That is one thing I would definitely say, and I would really encourage one now to ensure you put these 3 recipes in every single thing you do, and it's gonna be fascinating how well you'll be able to break the ice. Now, to wrap it up, remember, you have to be relatable, that's the R. You have to be interesting, that's the I. And ensure you encourage participation. And like, what I would say finally is that with the R.I.P model, you can never go wrong.